Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to the channel. So as part of our restoration of the camper van and also the work we've been doing sorting out the workshop, we've been ripping down lots of 8x4 sheets of various materials, and sometimes it's a struggle to make sure that you get the cuts as straight as you might like them to be. So I'm going to give this Kreg rip cut a try. I was tempted to buy a track saw, then I saw this and thought I'll give this a go first and see how it turns out. Okay, so here we are ready to unbox this and see what we get in the container. So I should say that this is not a sponsored video, so I bought this with my own money and it's come from Yandles, and we'll put a link at the bottom to tell you where we got it from, but they're available universally on the internet. So it comes in a blister pack with some cardboard stuck on the back, not too onerous to get it unpacked. Okay, so there we've got the track that the saw runs on. Then we've got some plastic to attach the track to. We've got some general safety instructions. We've got the owner's manual, and then we've got the actual sled, which we need to attach to the circular saw. And so we're going to have a go at using this with this Evolution circular saw. Okay, so step one is to attach the edge guide to the rail, and the screws to attach the edge guide to the rail are in a little blister pack on the edge guide. So step two is to check that the filler strip is the right way up, or as Kreg say, orient the filler strip. So you might have a circular saw which has got a ramp on the edge, on the leading edge, or it might be flat on the leading edge. This is supplied with the filler strip in the right way up for a saw that has got a ramp on the edge. The next step is to mount the saw to the sled itself. So the first thing to do is to remove this little grey indexing stop from the side and set that to one side, and then you need to loosen up these two grub screws so that these two mounts will swivel. So there are several positions that these mounts can go through, and for the most secure mounting you should choose the ones which are furthest to the side, nearest to the outside. Okay, and then mount your saw with the blade going into one of these slots, depending on whether it's a right hand blade or a left hand blade. Now obviously the first thing you need to do is to make sure your saw is unplugged before you do this. So then we position the saw into the sled like so, swivel the two silver mounts around like that. Tighten them down finger tight first, and then get a screwdriver and tighten them up like so, and at the same time tighten these two front screws. So at this stage you should have the blade centrally mounted in there, and you need to make sure that your blade guard still returns unimpeded. So the next thing then is to make sure that your cursor's on the right side of the sled, so it's removable depending on whether you've got a right hand side or a left hand side blade. So mine's a right hand side blade, and this comes pre-positioned on the right hand side. To remove it, you simply press down on the bit of blue plastic at the top and slide the cursor out to the side like that, and then obviously if you want to put it in that side you could do. Okay, and then putting it back is simply a reverse procedure. Okay, next we need to return the index stop to the sled. Now the whole idea of the index stop is that it allows you to, once you've got the cursor set up, it allows you to take the saw off and put it back in the same position without needing to set it up again. it's mounted back on with the little screw. It's worth bearing in mind that there is a nut on the back which isn't captive, so you need to make sure you don't lose that when you take the index stop off. So we just refit the index stop, and this needs to go on the same side obviously as the cursor. So on a right hand blade saw it needs to go on the right hand side, and so we'll just screw it up loosely like so, so that it stays in place. Next thing then is to return the actual sled onto the rail itself. So the first thing we need to do is to completely unlock this little grey plastic lock, and then slide the rail into the bottom, and underneath the black plastic, the grey plastic lock is a shaped piece of plastic which just slides into the rail like that, and then we can just slide that grey plastic over to lock the thing back into place. Next thing is that we have to set the cursor to 0, so manually lift the blade guard out of the way. Obviously make sure that the saw is unplugged at this stage, and then with the rail and sled unlocked, slide the blue sled up until it just touches the blade. Now obviously make sure that you don't push up so far that it deflects the blade. Okay, and then using the grey clamp on the top, lock it into place. Just check that it is touching, which mine is, and then we need to look at the cursor, and we need to move the cursor so that the red line on the cursor aligns with the blue line underneath. So you can see I've just moved that off of the blue line, and now moving it 2 clicks back should put it back on the blue line. So all you can see now is the red line. So that's the 0 mark aligned on the rail. So we now know that the blade should cut along where that red line is on the cursor. Okay. It's worth noting that the measurements on the rail only start at 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch, and beyond that it says not recommended. See manual. Now I think that it's not recommended for 2 reasons. Firstly, if you get the blade guard right up against this blue handle, you might inadvertently stop the blade guard from flipping back into place. And secondly, if you're going to be holding this blue handle while you're using the saw, then your fingers are pretty close to the blade the closer you get to 0. So obviously there are safety issues there. Only thing left to do then is to make sure that your indexing block is up tight against the side of your saw, so that if you take the saw out you can return it to the same place without needing to do the setup all over again. Okay, and obviously you can see that mine is tight up there. So that's the saw mounted to the piece of equipment. So what we're going to do now is take it outside, find something to cut, and have a look and see how it works. So here we are ready to do the first cut then with this Kreg rip cut jig. Obviously you're going to need a straight edge to reference against when you do the cut, and we're just cutting a piece of shoddy old ply that was found, piece of scrap that was kicking around in the back of the garage. And one point that's worth mentioning is that you can still adjust your blade depth to whatever you like while you're using the rip cut, and clearly I'm not going to be able to talk to you while I'm doing the cut. So here goes, and let's see how it works. Fail there because I've got this clamp in the way. Okay, so there we go. Clearly what it enables you to do is to cut right to the edge of the material without that last bit that you often get when you go through freehand. Okay, as I say, bit of old scrap material, so I wasn't really worried about the tear out on the edge. So first impression is that yeah, it's useful. The only thing I don't like, to be honest, is that when you're trying to set the thing up, it's quite difficult to move it up and down. So I'm going to just put some bit of wax or something on the slide to see if that makes it move more easily. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give us a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe if you want to see more of what we're doing with the workshop or with the camper van conversion. And we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers now.